table. Yeah, what do you want? Trento's got the same shirt on again today.
He's born to be wild. Yeah.
He's born to be wild with that shirt. He's had the same shirt on for 3 days.
It's stinky.
Smells pretty wild.
People actually do that. They look at your clothes and, count your fingernails and do everything else. But that's okay. I can handle it. So I wear a shirt for 3 days in a row.
Yeah, what's your problem with that? What's your problem with that? Come on.
Some people don't have shirts. Your mother ever do that? When you'd say, they're non sequiturs. Can I have something else? No. People don't even have food. You already ate. Don't worry about it. It's people starving all over the world.
You're gonna walk. I have to walk 5 miles in the snow to go to school.
Yeah,
which would now be grounds for child abuse.
I'm wearing the same shirt for 3 days. Be happy you have a shirt. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, walking 5 miles in snow would be grounds for child abuse today.
Should we let him in on the magic of television? No. We can make 3 hours look like 3 days by simply playing each hour a different day. How about that? And it's the same shirt for 3 hours. Come on. No, we shot a 3-part series. Today's part 3. And we're asking the question, is the Middle East going to explode other than the way it's been exploding in 2015? And today we're looking at the nation of Iran and their interest in making things explode very, very bigly, particularly that country of Israel, as they make their way, as we heard 2 days ago, yesterday actually, to the oil fields of Saudi Arabia. So the information we're providing in this series, is the Middle East going to explode? 2015 is essential for you to understand what's going to happen on March 3 when the Prime Minister of Israel comes to Washington, D.C. We predict every freakazoid ever born on the face of the earth will be in front of the United States Capitol protesting. We will be there too. Does that make us a freakazoid?
Yeah, probably.
And how does that affect you personally? Well, all of this, it's interesting. Most people never have any interaction with the police department other than, they may wave to a cop here and there. But if it wasn't for the police department, they'd have a great interaction with crime on a regular basis. That thin blue line serves and protects property and people behind the scenes to a great extent. Because people know it's there, there's safety. In a similar way, the work we do, and there's 2 elements to this war on terror, war against Islam, basically. And the more pointed phase 1, war on the Sharia, the 2 elements to it is once the proponents of Sharia, Muslims, decide that they want to be true believers and initiate or energize or insinuate the principles of the Sharia in a particular society, they go what's called kinetic. They go physical. Because in Islam, physical, brute, vicious, medieval strength is not only appropriate, but required often. When that occurs, other people on the other side of their scimitars or their AKs fight back. Thus you have in Syria, Muslims fighting Muslims over who the Prophet likes better, slaughtering each other. Once in a while they take some time out, as they are now, Hezbollah slaughtering members of the Islamic State in Syria, now joining with the Sunni Hamas people in Israel to fight against Israel because they'd rather shed Jewish blood than Muslim blood, though usually any blood to shed is pretty good.
Yeah, killing Jews is paramount.
I think that's the...
you have your hierarchy of stuff, and killing Jews is number one. Then killing each other's number 2.
Then killing each other's number 2. I was talking to somebody earlier, and at 10 minutes after the hour on the 28th, Wednesday, we're here, Tom Trento, Enemies of the State, with the boys in the studio, but we're really not here. We're coming to you by Memorex. We are in...
Cleveland.
Cleveland! We're going through Cleveland. On our way to Washington. We're going through Cleveland, different preposition.
We miss LeBron.
We're going through Cleveland on our way to Washington. But God may have a different plan.
That's right.
He may let the snow fall and strand us in friggin' Cleveland. I mean, that's got to be like a few jokes wrapped in.
We could be wrapped in a hunk of metal in the middle of Cleveland, right?
Yeah, I'm ready. That's not the way I envisioned going.
Nothing like Cleveland at the end of January.
Yeah, we're going to Washington because, as you've probably seen in our promotion, we're promoting a very important briefing on what country? Iran. In the United States Capitol in Washington, D.C., Frank Gaffney has assembled a team of subject matter experts, SMEs, that will articulate a rationale for increased blockage of Iran all over the world, particularly with programs, economic programs, political programs, maybe some other stuff, but it's going to go way beyond that. I believe there's going to be an argument for attacking Iran at a point where these negotiations, which are set to have a phase end in mid-March when we'll be in Israel, and then in June, that if there is not full transparency and an openness for the West to evaluate nuclear program, the cooking of the fuel to weapons grade levels, all of these, that the country of Iran must be attacked by the United States. I think you may hear that in this briefing. Well, how are you going to hear it if you're not in the room in Washington, D.C.? Voila, that's where we come into play. How are we going to do that, Mark?
Well, we're going to stream it live on the Center for Security Policy webpage.
Breitbart, yeah.
And Breitbart. And we're also going to have it on the United West, on our 4 o'clock show. So if you want to catch it later, where you can do the repeat. And we're going to try to attempt to get it streamed on as many sites as we can.
Yeah, we're gonna bring you this live briefing Wednesday the 28th, 1:30 to 2. I mean 1:30 to 3. 1:30 to 3, 90-minute briefing. Frank Gaffney, Claire Lopez, Dr. Andy Bostom, Fred Fleitz, and Congressman Trent Franks. They are going to brief congressional members, staff, but more so, we're broadcasting it live. Then we're going to replay portions of it on our show the next day. So we're going to make sure you see it. It's critically important. And then we have some very important interviews coming up right around the time Prime Minister Netanyahu's coming to D.C. March 3rd. He'll be here. We will be in D.C. He'll be speaking to Congress on this same issue. Today we're looking at Iran. We're going to have shortly with us General Paul Vallely, well known to many of our viewers and listeners, a true patriot. 35 years in the United States Army, up to the level of Lieutenant General. Is he with us?
Yes.
We'll bring him on in a moment.
Video.
So we're going to do that. The name of the series is Will the Middle East Explode in 2015? Sort of a rhetorical question. And we're really looking at the explosions of very, very large bombs that hurt a lot of people in the hands of very dangerous countries. And the way we looked at this on Monday, we took an interesting look into the border of Israel. Michael Gano was on, our war correspondent, on the front in Lebanon, on the Lebanese border with Israel, on the Israel side. He reported back live troop movements, air assets moving, preparation for defensive posture by citizens, schools shut down, buses stopping, bringing school kids into the northern Galilee, Golan region. All of this is going on. We looked at that. The catalyst for that was an attack by Israel, supposedly, though Israel, I don't think, has admitted it. About 8 or 9 days ago, they killed an Iranian Guard general, and the head of Hezbollah's, one of their military wings, killed his son, Jihad, the head of the Hezbollah military wing, was killed in 2009.
I love that name.
Jihad. So that was Monday's show. Tuesday's show, part 2 of Will the Middle East Explode in 2015. We took a look at the instability in Saudi Arabia with a new king. And then we dove deeply into the origins of the Saud family in 1932, essentially, the formal origins. And 2 of the first kings who married respectively 45 and 53 wives, no, 22
No.
and 40 wives, something like that, 45 and 53 kids, and that the marriages were marriages of convenience to mitigate the anger of the enemy tribes against them by marrying into their families.
Tribal alliances, yeah.
Yeah, tribal alliance, everybody got together. So now everybody in Saudi Arabia, all 30 million people, are cousins, are first cousins. Okay. That's how it works. And we have to follow these people because they have oil.
Right.
Isn't that a fun
Not
world?
for long. We don't really have to.
And
That's
then we
coming
looked
to an
at
end.
Yemen a little bit, where Yemen is a failed state, though there was a strongman president up until about 2010, 11. New president comes in, everybody's going to hail him as the new savior of Yemen. Well, he ran out of town 2 days ago because the Shia, the Iranian Muslims, went after him. He's a Sunni Muslim. So now we have a civil war going on in Yemen. It's the base of Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula. It's where the underwear bomber and al-Awlaki, all these guys were living and breathing and planning their dastardly deeds. It's where Morton Storm, if you haven't read that yet, Secret Agent Morton Storm, where he was based, became friends with Anwar al-Awlaki. Great book, great story. He tripled, turned agent. So we're keeping our eye on Yemen, on Saudi Arabia, and now Iran instigating the Middle East for its own agenda. What the heck is that agenda? Let's go to...
We also we're coming up with the Black Triangle with Mark Land.
yeah.
Don't forget about
We want the
that.
general to see that. We have part one we showed yesterday, the Black Triangle. The gold, the treasure chest of gold. We're going to show part two. We want the general to look at that and comment on that. But let's go to General Paul Vallely, our dear friend. We have him on the phone, but I think we have some cutesy pictures of him in...
Lingerie pictures.
in lingerie pictures, yeah. In the days gone by, in his frat days, right? General Vallely, how are you, sir?
I'm fine, Tom. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, you are a dear friend, a patriot, and we need to have you on more often. You have your hands in everything going on, national security around the world. How are you? How's your family? How's your health? How's all of that stuff?
Well, it's all fine. We're moving into a house next door that we've built. First house in 75 years that I've built. So it's been an interesting experience, Tom. But the weather's nice in Montana. It's nice in the 40s. The snow's all melting, and so it's a good day here. And we're the Benghazi Citizens Commission, which I co-founded with Admiral Lyons, General McInerney. We're proceeding on with that, so we can talk a little bit about Benghazi, a little bit about the Middle East chessboard, which you covered very accurately. And I think what we need to do, Tom, is really look at today and tomorrow. And as General al-Sisi told me last year when I met with him twice, he says, if America starts looking into the prism of reality of what's going on in the Middle East, and stop looking through the prism of politics on every decision you make in the White House in Washington, D.C. And I thought that was very insightful.
Yeah, I want to really get into that. But first I want to confirm the fact that in your new house, you have the Trento guest room ready to go.
That's right.
Absolutely. It's all ready and fully stocked foyer bar for you with good coffee and whatever else you would like, Tom.
A humidor. Yeah.
Yeah, humidor and
a correctly for you because I know your body is used to that warm Mediterranean and Florida weather.
It is, and a nice humidor and warm clothes for when we go after the moose up there. Okay,
Grizzly bears.
Grizzly bears. Oh, that sounds like with 44.
I'll take you out on some ATVs and we'll chase down some grizzlies. It's a lot of fun.
That actually does sound like fun. We'll have to do that.
Very exciting.
You mentioned two other American heroes, General McInerney and Admiral Ace Lyons, great individuals. And Claire Lopez also is involved with your committee on Benghazi. Get us up to date. We see some shenanigans going on in the various committee meetings in Washington. Get us up to date on that, and then we'll look at the Iranian issue related there, too.
Well, it's sort of amazing how this has rolled out, Tom. Just in the last 3 weeks, right after Christmas, we had a conference call that Roger Aronoff had set up with Accuracy in Media for the commission. And at that time, we had noticed and observed that the first two select committee hearings under Trey Gowdy were rather weak. The witnesses that were there weren't really the witnesses that we thought would come forth earlier. And now the third hearing, Tom, will be tomorrow, as I understand, at 10 a.m. But after our conference call, we decided, well, we need to preempt something here and ensure from the reports we were getting that Speaker Boehner and other establishment Republicans were not giving the adequate support to Boehner. And there was a lot of consternation of that, and also Mike Rogers' report, which came out from his Intelligence Committee, which was absolutely shoddy, holding nobody responsible for Benghazi. Excuse me, Tom. And so we decided what we need to do is get some information out into the media. And the week after that, Jerry Corsi called me from Washington, D.C., and he wanted to know if I wanted to do an interview about the Middle East. I said yes, but I said I'd like you to maybe focus on Benghazi in the hearings if you could. Now, as a result of that conversation, Jerry has produced three fully impact type articles that you can find on WorldNet Daily on Google if you go to it. The fourth one will be out tomorrow, and the fifth one will be out on Friday. And Jerry's done a magnificent job. And as you remember, he did Unfit for Command, which really unseated, in a way, John Kerry from the presidency, which was a great thing, in my opinion.
Yes, absolutely. The swift boat move. Yeah, Jerry's a great guy.
That's right. Yeah. So anyhow, that's where we are. We'll see what the hearings bring forth tomorrow. But we want to ensure that the Trey Gowdy's not compromised, and that he can, in fact, get to the truth, and he can get to Hillary Clinton by subpoena, to Leon Panetta, General Dempsey, General Ham, and any of the others, including General Petraeus, who was head of the CIA at the time. Well, and get them under oath, and let's get to the truth, and we can get by this thing, because the three phases of Benghazi, Tom, as you may remember, before they weren't prepared, during the 13 hours where we lost our four great Americans, and then the third is what happened afterwards. So when we look at the three phases of Benghazi, the third afterwards, Tom, was really nobody came to save them. They were waiting. If you read 13 hours by three of the individuals that survived the attack, during that 13 hours, there were, in fact, stand-down orders. The first stand-down order came in the first hour when Ambassador Stevens' compound was hit, and a CIA station chief, would just call him Bob, told him to stand down because the annex people were all ready to get in their vehicles, go over to the compound, because they knew there was a lot of gunfire and things going on. So there's a lot involved in this story, Tom, and we don't want to forget Benghazi and the four Americans we lost, because it ties together so many things about a very deceptive, cheating, and lying structure that we have there in Washington, D.C. that goes all the way to the White House and Valerie Jarrett.
Yep. Mark has a question, and then I got a couple of questions on Benghazi also. Then we'll
real quick. Some of the things I've been hearing about. This is Mark Campbell, General.
Hi, Mark.
A couple questions I had about Benghazi. One has to do with John Boehner, and I've heard from very high sources that he was the one putting big roadblocks for Trey Gowdy into doing the investigation, because he had foreknowledge of what was going on in a weapons transfer in Benghazi to Syria. What have you heard along those lines?
That's our findings, as we've interviewed witnesses that also we provided Trey Gowdy, and working with him closely on providing him that kind of intelligence. There were two things going on. There was the arms deal, okay, and we interviewed the individuals ahead of the arms transfer. It was a civilian. The second thing that the blind sheikh, you remember the bombings world, the Trade Center in the early 90s,
Yes.
the blind sheikh who was in jail, that there was going to be a deal to release him. So we're getting to the crux of that as well. But this whole thing of then switching sides at that time in Libya, where we should have let Gaddafi in power, that a lot of people thought we should do at the time, but Obama decided he was going to support the Al-Qaeda insurgents, and that's what happened. It's a mess. It was a real mess over there. But we're getting to the truth, and we've published that again. If you look at these 3 articles that Jerry Corsi's done in the last 10 days, some of that we've just discussed, that information and intel is in those articles.
All right, that is very, very good because, when this happened, September 11, 2012, it was right after Extortion 17, which happened a year earlier. And we saw this whole pattern of these failures in the White House. But then after a while, failures, these things have a pattern, and there seems to be a preponderance of support toward the Al-Qaeda side. What the heck is going on here? And then Mark and I happened to be in Washington at the first Benghazi hearing when I think it was October,
I remember
November.
that. I was there with you. I remember
That's
that.
Right.
Tom.
That's right. And we sat through those hearings, and those brave guys that were there who start revealing some of the truth, and everybody says, now we'll get to the bottom of it. But still, there's been this cap put on this thing.
Yeah, and that comes from Boehner. It's coming from Boehner.
Yeah.
Wherever it's coming from.
It went nowhere, and that's why we think John Boehner received the initial briefings. It was sort of like the Gang of Eight. Received these briefings about the arms deal going on in Libya. And so we think there was prior knowledge there. We think that's why Boehner hesitated and really did not want to have the select committee formed. But there was so much pressure put on by us for him to do it and others that he finally, announced the select committee last summer. But here we go, almost 18 months, Tom, and we still haven't got to the truth yet because of the cover-up and deception in Washington.
Is it accurate to say, General, for our audience, we have a pretty astute audience, 28 minutes after Tom Trento, your host, Enemies of the State, you're on the radio, WSBR AM 740, broadcasting out of Boca Raton from Miami to Palm Beach. You're also on internet television, theunitedwest.org. We're on teapartycommunity.com. We're on Breitbart TV, some other areas there. We have a special guest, General Paul Vallely. We're talking about the disturbances and instability in the Middle East right now on Wednesday. Today's Wednesday the 28th in television world. 28th, 29 minutes after 4 o'clock on the East Coast. And with General Vallely, we're discussing the imminent committee meeting for the Benghazi hearing in Washington, D.C. General, for our audience, people new to national security issues, is it an oversimplification to say that our government was involved in taking the many weapons that Libya had through Muammar Gaddafi and circumventing them through various countries over to the rebels or whomever in Syria to fight against the Assad regime? Is that what was going on?
Yes.
Okay.
Based on the intelligence and the interviews that we've had, that was the direction. But having been the only one that's been inside Syria in the last year and a half, I went into Aleppo, about a year and a half ago with 400 men of the Free Syrian Army. The true Free Syrian Army, who are the ones that are rebelling against Assad, are the ones that never received any weapons or help from the United States, and they're still not receiving them today.
Oh, God.
They're going to a more Muslim Brotherhood, Qatar-supported group, believe me, they'll end up in ISIS's hands, which they probably already have.
And what happened
And
to the
even John McCain, who went over, and I told John when he got back, I said, you met with the wrong people, John. I've been over there 3 times. I met with the true Free Syrian Army, who were the ones that were secular They weren't radicals. They hated the radicals, but now they've been co-opted by ISIS and the Al-Qaeda forces.
Well, that's
Hey,
not.
General, you're a tough guy. We know that. You're a general in the United States Army, retired. You're special operators, all of that. You ain't no spring chicken. What the hell are you doing in Syria, man? What is going on?
Well, if you go, Tom, go on YouTube and type in my name in Syria, you'll see all the footage.
Oh, I've seen it. Believe me.
Inside Syria, going from southern Turkey into 80 kilometers inside of Syria a year and a half ago. There were 2 of us along with 400 Syrians. And I'll tell you, it was quite a day. We had to walk out at midnight across the border back into Turkey because the border had closed at 10 p.m. We didn't get back from Aleppo until a little after that. So here I am going a mile walking across farmland through barriers and through the Turkish outpost to get back into Turkey. We had 2 cars waiting for us on the highway to take us back to where we were staying. It was something.
I saw some of that footage, and you have like double holsters on, and
Right.
these guys are around you. And then I noticed that beautiful cigar in your pocket. I noticed.
Yes,
that
you
in the
did,
video.
Tom.
That's
You're right. I forgot all about
That's
that.
right.
You're the only one that noticed that.
I said he's got a cigar in his pocket. Look at that.
Yeah, you're right.
So,
You're the only one that noticed that. It's very perceptive of you.
Now let me ask you about General Sissi, because this is a guy who's an enigma wrapped in a conundrum. One of those situations. He has a zabida on his head, the prayer bump.
Yes.
And you don't get that by,
He prays.
Yeah, I mean, he's a serious Muslim that way, but he's
Yeah.
he was killing the Muslim Brotherhood, putting him on trial. Here we go. We're showing footage right now of you in Syria.
There is a cigar in the pocket.
Yeah, yeah,
In
yeah.
fact, there are rumors that Paul Vallely is the head of ISIS, according to.
Look at that.
There's actually another video of the Chechenian. He is the deputy commander of ISIS that put a hit out on me last
great.
year. And you can see that on YouTube as well. But the next day I put a hit out on him. So
Good.
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 this is the Syrian countryside, and this is me walking across the border.
Yeah, look at that. Oh, man.
Wow.
Am I
That's...
crazy, Tom, or am I crazy? Look, and I have no weapons at that
Nothing.
time. But when I got to
And usually in your general days, you got 20 guys around you,
Right.
all with big weapons.
Well, you
And-
can see the rest of them in the forest there. Those are
There you
olive
go.
groves, actually. Now, this is what you're viewing now is Colonel Maliki. He's one of the deputy commanders of the Free Syrian Army walking with me. Now, we're walking out to the convoy. This is a sacred compound in Aleppo, and we're going to head in downtown to Aleppo, which was about 3 or 4 miles away. So you'll see all of these young, mostly late 20s, early 30s. These are bright young men. They're not radicals, and they become very good friends. These are the kind of people that we want to see in charge over there in the Middle East. You can see my advisor, Colonel Naji Najjar, who's a Christian, Lebanese Christian, served in the Lebanese army. But you can see the kind of convoys we had to mount up because Assad had several battalions or a brigade in Aleppo that were across town on the other side, but they were not coming out of their compounds as long as our convoys were there.
Wow. Wow. All right, look, you have to
This
be
is
careful.
real stuff. This should make a movie someday, Tom. You can produce it, but
I'm telling you, look, this
Look,
is
yeah.
if you go back, I don't know if you should, but we'll go with you and we'll shoot a fascinating story for sure. And
Would they like an old Jew to accompany them?
sure, we'll
Yes.
put your armor on. We'll take you back in. But you know, it's interesting. I offered Laura Logan in 60 Minutes the opportunity to go in with me. CBS wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
I
Really?
offered Geraldo Rivera and Fox. Actually, I offered Fox, and they wanted Geraldo. A week before, Fox pulled out, Tom,
Really?
because they
Oh,
said
really?
they didn't have the finances.
Oh,
Come on. What, for all the diapers they'd need?
yeah, for all the diapers. Hey, tell us. Let's get into the.
With Geraldo and his brother in with you. And so Fox canceled out. They missed the story of the lifetime because that trip to Aleppo, I reported back to the CIA, FBI, the Intelligence Committee, telling them what they needed to do to support it. They didn't do anything on those 3 trips I took. Look at the situation we're in today. If they had listened to our report, ISIS would have never come about.
Yeah.
Fox could have had the finances for it. They could have let Geraldo crap his drawers, and they could have had a Depends undergarment sponsorship just
Yeah,
like that.
They could have done that.
And you know what? I've got emails from CBS and from Fox saying, "Boy, we really should have gone in with you."
Absolutely.
You know, I believe Fox, with all their money, said due to financial reasons.
Yeah, really.
No, they missed the story. Yeah, Damon. You got a
I
question?
can tell that these probably aren't the real radical Sunni rebels because I see vehicles that are not Toyotas.
Toyotas, yeah, exactly. Hey, General, let's get into the head of General al-Sisi a little bit, because right now, as a result of his amazing speech at Al-Azhar in Egypt, where he castigated the imams and said we've got to change this Islam thing, half of the counter-jihad movement, good friends of yours and mine, are going, it's bluster, it's baloney, the guy's a jihadist, and he's just taking a different route. And a bunch of people are saying, no, he maybe he won't be able to do anything, but he's certainly true in what he's trying to say, what he's saying. What are your thoughts? You met with a guy, you spent some time with him.
Well, I've become very good friends with him and his staff over there. Also with Shafiq Kabir, who's one of the wealthiest guys in Egypt, probably one of the 3 billionaires from Egypt. Spent some time with Shafiq. But truly, al-Sisi is a remarkable individual, and they love him over there. And what he did to take Morsi out and to bring back a new constitution, to bring back a new voting at the polls. This was not a junta, basically a military coup. The people wanted Morsi removed. 35 million people stood up, Tom and Mark, and said, we don't want this. Now, I don't know how you feel, but Claire Lopez and I have been playing with this, how you define the people over there. And so like you saw with me in Syria, they're Muslim. There were some Christians in there, but for the most part, they're secular. Okay. Some don't even go to the mosque every day. They don't pray every day. Some of them do. All right. So you got 3 categories. You got a lot of Muslims. They don't practice the religion. It's like Jews don't go to the synagogue. Catholics don't go to church. And then you have the middle part that do go to prayer. They go to the mosque, but they're not radical. They're businessmen, just like some of the businessmen I met in Cairo. And like General al-Sisi, he prays, but he's not radical. He's not a nutcase. He believes in capitalism. And then you got the third group, Tom, that are radicalized. They're nutcases, all right? And that's what we're dealing with in the radical Islam. So when you go over there and meet with the Muslims, and of course, al-Sisi, he said, I will rebuild the Coptic Christian churches in Egypt, and that's what he's doing.
Wow.
Morsi and al-Qaeda destroyed and burned over 80 churches over there in Egypt.
Tell that to Andrew Boston.
One of the things al-Sisi said, Tom, he said, I'm going to make sure the Sinai and I'm going to make sure the southern border of Israel is protected. And he went on the move immediately to send Egyptian troops to secure the Sinai. Now, what's that tell you?
Well, I was in Israel in November meeting with several generals and people like that. And, these Israelis, and these are guys that are former generals in the IDF. They're in their 70s and some were in their 80s. Well-known people, battle-hardened. They're realists. They said, look, Egypt is Egypt, but we like this guy. Okay, this guy's making a lot of sense, and we can work with him. So Israel's very pragmatic that way. They really don't get into some of the stuff we do, the analysts, looking at the nuance of the doctrine and all of that. They go, this guy's killing bad guys. He's shutting the Rafah gate down in Gaza. He's blowing up the tunnels there. He's screwing with Hamas. We like this guy. David, you got a question for the general?
I had a question. Being you are familiar with President al-Sisi, how serious was his offer to the Palestinians of offering the Sinai Peninsula as a home for the, quote, Palestinian people?
I don't know, Mark. I doubt it very much. That he and his staff and he and the new government there would take that route. You got to realize he said he told me personally. He said, I'm dealing with Libya to my west. I'm dealing with Somalia and to my south. I'm dealing with the expansion of a caliphate. I'm looking at Al Qaeda. I'm looking at Hezbollah. I'm looking at Hamas. And he said, they create nothing but problems for me here in Egypt because we have to protect one of the great gateways of the world, and that's the Suez Canal. And he said, we've had attacks on the Suez Canal. 20% of our economy is based on tourism. So here's a very practical individual that is looking through the prism of reality, looking where he is, what an important country Egypt is, 3,000 years old. And Christianity started there, by the way, in 300 to 400 years before Muhammad even came about. They had the Coptic Christians.
Yep. No, it's
so. Here is a country that's dedicated to capitalism, jobs, manufacturing, and they're trying to rebuild that up along with their tourist industry. And so this gentleman, El-Sisi, is a true leader. He is courageous, and he blends well with the young people, with the civilians, as well as the business people. We met with all the senior members of the Chamber of Commerce in Cairo. It was a wonderful trip, Tom, and I wish we could put another one together in the next year, go back there and see what a remarkable job this Egyptian revolution meant to the people. Well, the wonderful job that they did in revolting against Morsi and the Muslim Brotherhood. Now they've outlawed the Muslim Brotherhood.
Yeah,
we've got Muslim Brotherhood coming into the White House, into our government.
We have more here than they do there.
We have more. Yeah.
What does El-Sisi think about Obama? What is his view on President Obama?
Here's the problem trying to get the Egyptians to talk about that. They were on the toll just like Israel, as far as several $1 billion a year, in aid and so on. Now, the last time I was there, we had shut off some of the spare parts for their aircraft, shut off military aid to them. They were very ticked off at the State Department and also the government. But also, they knew there was some lingering hope that some of these parts would come through eventually. So they didn't want to badmouth Obama only because I think of the money in the situation, which in their case, I don't blame them to a degree. 3 weeks after I was there, Tom and Mark, guess who showed up in Cairo? The Russians.
Oh, God.
And they were working deals. They were going to do this resupply parts for the old, what were those old Russian airplanes?
MiGs?
Yeah, the old MiGs that they had. And the Russians, through even Ukraine, were sending them spare parts. Saudi Arabia put up something like $2 billion or whatever amount of money it was, maybe $550 million. I can't remember all these figures now, to allow the Egyptians then to buy what they needed from the Russians. So El-Sisi says, what am I to do? Yeah. Americans, our allies, shut us off. I need spare parts to fight Al-Qaeda and the rest of these crazies in the Middle East. What am I to do as a leader?
Make friends with Netanyahu because you're in the same boat?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but he said, Israel's not going to supply me all the military equipment that I need, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think they supply.
The Russians are going to give it to me. I'm going to take the damn thing. It's like, you can see where they're coming from.
Yep.
We have to survive. And if America's shutting off the spigot, where are we going to go? Anyhow.
Yeah, no, good point. Hey, folks, we're with General Paul Vallely, way out west. He's 3 hours or so different than we are. Our time right here now is 45 minutes after 4 o'clock on Wednesday, January 28th. We are in two places today. We're here on our South Florida broadcast, WSBR Radio, 740 AM. But we're also in Cleveland. We're in Washington, D.C. We made it through Cleveland. We're in D.C. We are live streaming a briefing. Frank Gaffney, Claire Lopez, Congressman Trent Franks are doing on Iran and their march to get nuclear weapons. And we have General Paul Vallely. General Vallely, what do you see? Give us an analysis of where Iran, they were sort of just an outlier. Now, everywhere you look around the Middle East, Iran has their tentacles in these states and is not as concerned anymore about not appearing publicly managing some of their puppet terrorist organizations. What do you make of all of that?
Well, they have a strategy, and they've had since what I call World War III started in 1979 when they attacked our embassy in Tehran. A lot of people don't realize that's when all of this started. Khomeini came back from Paris. So when you look at Iran, their goal is to be the hegemonic power of the Middle East. The power, that's what it's about. And so they're on track with their strategy. They know we're very weak, probably the weakest the American government's been in its entire history, with Obama and the inept leadership there. And so they know they do great at psychological warfare. They know how to use the media. They know how to use the press. Thank God we have Israel keeping their eyes on them 24 hours a day. And hopefully Israel will make the right moves here this year to make sure that Iran's neutralized. Because you can't depend on the United States to do anything. There's a brigade that was moved over into Iraq of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. Iran's lost 3 generals in the last month, 2 of them killed by ISIS, and then the third one was killed up there in southern Syria that the Israelis hit, what, Tom, about 10 days ago?
About 10 days, yeah.
So they are continuing. They will control, and they do support Assad. And so they'll ensure that at the proper time, they will destroy ISIS. They're not going to tolerate Sunnis and Shia, that whole thing. The biggest problem I have over there is the uninvolvement of Turkey. Now, Turkey's has taken in hundreds of thousands of Syrians.
Hey, General, hang on one second.
Yep.
Before we get into Turkey, I want to show you a short video here, a few minutes. And it was done by our good friend Mark Langfan and Eric Steckelbach. You know Eric Steckelbach. And it's part 1 yesterday, but it's a topographical and geographical study of the region vis-a-vis the oil fields in Saudi Arabia and the interest Iran has on that. Take a look at this. We want your comments afterwards. Here we go.
And welcome back to the Watchman War Room. We're joined by Mark Langfan with his amazing maps. And by the way, folks, you can find these maps at marklangfan.com. You see the URL on your screen right now. Check it out, marklangfan.com. Americans for a Safe Israel. So, Mark, when we went to the break, you were filling us in on this black gold triangle. What does that mean, and what does it mean for us over here?
Well, what it means is as follows. When you look at Iran, almost all of Iran's oil is in here. When you look at Iraq, almost all of Iraq's oil is in here. And when you look at Saudi Arabia, almost all of Saudi Arabia's oil is in this small area.
Wow.
So now really, if you look at it, there's 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. Well, when President Obama virtually unilaterally retreated from Iraq, he gave almost all of Iraq's oil to Iran, because Iran is essentially the boss of Iraq right now.
Exactly.
Okay?
Iran benefited more than anyone from that invasion of Iraq.
Iraq is really now a province of Iran.
It's an Iranian satellite.
It's an Iranian satellite. Right. Okay. So the only piece left of this puzzle is Saudi Arabia. And why this is important is everything that is going on in the Middle East, whether it's in Syria, whether it's in Egypt. Ultimately, where all of this is the core of the problem and the core of the fight is between Saudi Arabia and Iran.
Right.
And the real threat to a nuclear bomb, yes, Israel is a threat, but the goal of an Iranian nuclear bomb is to gain this last third of the triangle.
Yeah, and Mark, real quick, I mean, this is stunning. 56%, 56%, ladies and gentlemen, of the world's known oil and gas reserves are inside this black triangle. 56%. What does that mean for us at home? I don't know, Mark. I don't think that could be good if Iran controlled 56% of the world's oil and gas reserves.
As you said before, it would turn OPEC into Iran-PEC.
Exactly. They
Okay?
would set the
They would
price
be a
of oil
monopoly.
and a nuclear gun to the heads of every oil-producing nation.
And they'd be they not only would have this 60%, 56% of the world's oil supply, but they'd have a nuclear umbrella on top of it.
Yes.
But now this is where
They
it
would
gets
be a complete powerhouse. 56% of the world's oil, nuclear armed. This, folks, is what a nuclear Iran
That is exactly
really means.
exactly.
This is not an Israeli problem.
Right. This
It
is
is
a
a
world
problem. Wake up.
Okay, so now the next frame is this map shows the black gold triangle, but in addition it shows that most of the Shias are a minority in Saudi Arabia, but they are all, there's about 22 million Saudi Arabians, about 2 million Shias, but that 2 million Shias are all sitting right in the eastern provinces.
Just so people at home understand, Mark, Iran is a majority Shia Muslim country. Eastern Iraq, where all that oil is, majority Shia. Eastern Saudi Arabia, where, wow, the really big oil reserves are, majority Shia. Iran's goal is to become the Shia powerhouse, and
The
unfortunately,
Shia Caliphate.
the Shia Caliphate. And unfortunately for us, 56% of the world's oil and gas, again, lies inside Iran's potential Shia Caliphate.
But the key is, how does Iran use a nuclear weapon to get Saudi Arabia?
Which takes us
Which
to
takes
our
us
final map.
to our final map.
And possibly our most disturbing, if you're not disturbed enough at home yet. But this is educational. You need to know. Would you rather know or not know? I think you need to know what Mark's sharing.
So now there's two quote-unquote arguments allowing a small number of nukes to Iran. Number one, they have a fatwa, so they're not going to use it. Number two, oh, what is 1 or 2 nukes against 1,000 American nukes going to do? This is what it's going to do. They can use 1 nuke as an EMP weapon against Saudi Arabia and then attack, which will burn up all of America's and Saudi Arabia's defense electronics.
EMP, Mark, just
is
to remind everyone.
electromagnetic pulse.
We've talked about it many times here on the show, electromagnetic pulse, EMP for short.
Yes. So what happens is you don't ignite the nuclear weapon a kilometer above the ground. You ignite it 50 kilometers above
Yes,
the
in
ground.
the atmosphere.
In the atmosphere. And so actually...
You're in the Stone Age. You're in
so
the 1800s.
you're in the Stone Age. But the key
Fries
part-
everything.
Fries everything. But it takes you back to 900 AD.
Yes.
Where you'll kill less people. It's a weapon where you're not going to... So it's actually a fatwa. It's a Sharia-compliant nuclear weapon.
Yeah. So you could, we got to run, Mark, but real quick, you could use an Iran, which Iran has tested this EMP technology in the Caspian Sea. Iran could use an EMP against Saudi Arabia, cripple Saudi Arabia's electrical grid, everything. Iran marches right in and takes those oil fields in eastern Saudi Arabia. And here we have our Iranian caliphate controlling some 56% of the world's oil and natural gas supplies. Mark, thank you so much for breaking it down, my friend. It was great to have you.
Thank you
2
for
weeks in a
having
row,
me.
we'll have you back.
Oh, my word. All right, General, we got a couple of minutes left. What do you think of that analysis?
Is he still there?
Well, yeah, Mark, I'm here.
Yeah. What do you think of that analysis, General? Oh, we must have lost him.
He's having phone problems.
Yeah.
All of our phone problems on this series. I know what I think of it.
Yeah, we'll call it that.
My immediate response is, okay, we know EMPs are theoretically practical. We know they have been tested in unique ways. We've got to err on the side of saying, yeah, that could happen. And if it happens, if Iran has a bomb, blows it up over Saudi Arabia, that goo is going to go all over the place. There's going to be a lot of upset people in the world, but basically the UN immediately is going to calibrate everything down or not escalate. no retaliation. Who fires what? And they're probably going to get away with it. They're probably going to.
They've
probably
gotten
are
away
gonna
with
get away with
everything
it.
else. Why wouldn't they get away with that? When
But-
you have no strong horse, when you have no strong horse in the strong nation, meaning the United States, they get away with everything they want to get away with.
You know what a timetable for this is? Because many very competent people believe that Iran already has the warhead, and they have the enriched uranium to make the bad stuff. They just don't have a delivery device that can take it. They haven't married the delivery device to their rocket system. That's just a matter of time. If I were them and I wanted to do something dastardly, I would make sure it's on the watch of Obama, than the 2016. So
Right.
is he back on? General, we got about 1 minute. We lost you there for a minute. Give us a quick, your thoughts on what you just heard about the Iranian situation potentially.
Oh, looks like we lost him.
Lost them again.
Lost him again. Yeah. Must be that great weather in Washington,
yeah.
D.C.
No, he's
supposed
in-
to
he's in
be-
Montana,
in
man.
Montana, right.
All right, well, don't call him back because we're coming down to the bewitching hour. What a great series. 3 shows. Part 1 Monday on Israel's tense elements at the border. Part 2, we looked into the house of the... Talk about a dysfunctional family, the Saud family. They should be their own reality television
They should.
show.
They should.
Hey, Abdullah. Yes, Abdullah, come over here. Oh, you're my cousin. No, you're my brother and my cousin. You're my son and my brother and my cousin. Yes, man, we're all kings, so it doesn't matter. Self-appointed kings.
They
You
all
can
have
do that.
gold-plated airplanes.
You can do that when you have black gold under. Can you just see the seething in the hearts and minds of the Ayatollahs, the ruling 12, and the Supreme Ayatollah Khomeini? They hate the Saudis theologically because they believe
Right.
that they are the chosen Muslims, not the Sunnis. They hate them as big, fat, gargantuous, food-eating, sex-driving, crazy Muslim fatso kings. They hate them for that. They're all fat. All those guys are, right? Man, they have so much hatred for them. They're probably, when they saw Eric's report on the EMP, they're going, yes, Allah, that's what we want, an EMP over those
I'll
guys.
take 2.
I'll take 2 of those. Anyway, folks, 3-part series. Thank you for tuning in. We got a couple of minutes left, and right now it's almost 5 o'clock on the East Coast, and tomorrow we'll all be back in the studio. Today's Wednesday.
What
right?
day is it? Are we in Cleveland
Today's
or are we in D.C.?
Wednesday.
Where
We're
are
in
we at?
Cleveland.
Where are we at?
But actually, we're also going to cut the show and show it on Thursday. A
Is
little
it on
differently.
Friday?
No, Thursday.
On Friday?
Friday, we're back in the studio. Jumping Juma Freaky Friday.
Are we shooting Thursday
Maybe.
show on Friday? Or
Friday, we're
Are we
doing
shooting
live
Friday we'll
from,
be filming live from the airport in
Are we-
Cleveland.
Live
We'll be
from
live
the-
in Cleveland.
from Starbucks in Cleveland.
We're going to see if we can get an interview with LeBron James.
That's what we're going to do. But the big issue right now for this week is the critical importance of coming with us on this trip to Israel. We're down to crunch time. What better time to come when all this stuff is going on, when all the information you've read about and all the people you've heard speak, you can go into that land, speak to these people, see these people.
Did his mic just go?
Who, me? No, I'm good.
No, he's good.
1, 2, 3,
No.
I'm good. You can see all these people and be part of it. You're not going to get hurt. Don't worry about it. You're coming with us.
That's right. Don't worry about that big missile behind Tom.
Look, we'll see you coming a mile away. We'll have our own iron dome following us around wherever we go. Now, come on, live a little bit. Live on the edge a little bit. You've spent all this money going on these crazy rides at Disney World for $3,000. We'll take you on the ride of your life. How about that? Anything else, gentlemen? We got to say goodbye now.
No, we're done.
That's it. Closing.
Okay.
3 days of wonderful analysis. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.